Right now, an urgent address from the White House. U.S. generals have been put on alert. That's it, Trump has crushed Putin. A statement on the end of the war. No one expected such frankness. The military is in shock. The world is giving a standing ovation. Who did the American call stupid, and what awaits the dictator now instead of a red carpet? All this and more coming up. Watch until the end. Hello, this is Ukraine Today. I'm Victoria Panchenko, and here are the latest events. U.S. President Donald Trump openly mocked Putin in front of hundreds of American generals, calling him a paper tiger. It seems America has made a sharp turn.
I told him, you don't look good. You've been fighting a war for 4 years that was supposed to last a week. What are you, a paper tiger?
And not so long ago, Trump welcomed Putin in Alaska with honors and even a red carpet. Moreover, the war criminal was guarded by army snipers. And in front of him, the U.S. was showing off its Air Force. Obviously, that's all in the past now. America is disappointed.
I'm very disappointed in Putin. I thought he'd handle it quickly. He was supposed to finish the war in a week.
The former president of Russia, now deputy chairman of the Security Council, Dmitry Medvedev, also came under fire. Trump called him stupid because of the Kremlin's nuclear threats, which forced him to send submarines closer to the Russian Federation's coast.
Russia made some slight threats against us not so long ago. And I sent nuclear submarines, the deadliest weapons ever created. I did it because of his mention. Nuclear. He was a foolish man who works for Putin. And I sent a submarine or two to the shores of Russia, just to be cautious. We can't allow people to throw that word around carelessly.
The whole world is on edge. The first steps have been taken. Now the head of the White House will increase pressure on the Russian leader, Vladimir Putin, moving from a carrot to a stick approach. This confidence was expressed by the president of Finland, Alexander Stubb.
Seeing that the carrot rarely works with Russians, he moved on to the stick phase. Now the only question is how big the stick will be.
Stubb suggested that the next steps in this ongoing situation could be tougher, more stringent sanctions, higher tariffs on imported goods, and a more active, assertive use of American long-range weaponry. He called himself a realistic optimist and urged Ukraine's allies to be patient.
I had the opportunity to work quite closely with President Trump over the past few months. Perhaps optimism is sometimes a matter of intuition, but I think the facts on the ground now show that we are moving in a better direction.
Moreover, in a speech to the U.S. military command, Trump once again stated the need for a summit between Putin and Zelensky. By the way, the possibility of a meeting between the presidents and afterwards a trilateral meeting involving the leaders of the U.S., Ukraine and Russia was something the American politician predicted back after his meeting with Putin in mid-August. On the eve of that, Donald Trump made a fateful decision. Tomahawk missiles are heading to Ukraine. This is a real slap in the face to Putin. Devastating strikes are expected. The Kremlin is trying to downplay the threat, but the defeat of enemy forces could happen in the near future. Our defenders are on high alert, and the demilitarization of Crimea is in the plans. What other breakthroughs will be possible thanks to U.S. support? We'll find out in just a moment.
A complete turnaround. Very soon, the White House will provide Ukraine with long-range Tomahawk missiles. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance announced this over the weekend in an interview with Fox News. And just 2 days later, U.S. Special Envoy Keith Kellogg confirmed the intention. Donald Trump will allow Ukraine to carry out long-range strikes against Russia.
I think that having read what he said, as well as what Vice President Vance and Secretary of State Rubio said, the answer is yes. Use the opportunity to strike at long distances. There is nothing sacred about it. And this is one of the reasons why I believe that last week President Zelensky asked President Trump to provide Tomahawk missiles.
Just 2 weeks ago, Trump and his administration were categorically opposed to transferring them, let alone to strikes, on Russian territory with American Tomahawk missiles. But after the meeting between Zelensky and Trump in New York on September 23rd, the White House's rhetoric changed. Ukraine's main argument is that having such missiles could increase pressure on Russia and force Putin to come to the negotiating table, possibly even without actually using this type of weapon. The transfer of Tomahawks also drew a reaction from the Kremlin. Putin's press secretary Peskov stated that there is no magic weapon for Kiev that can change the dynamics on the battlefield.
There is no panacea that can change the situation at the front right now. For the Kiev regime, there is no magic weapon. And whether it's Tomahawks or other missiles, they won't be able to change the dynamics.
The Tomahawk missile has a range of up to 1,600 kilometers, which significantly exceeds the capabilities of the American HIMARS rocket systems, which are used by the Ukrainian armed forces. The Tomahawk has greater speed and combat power compared to Ukrainian drones, which are capable of striking deep into Russian territory, but often encounter modern Russian air defense systems.
It's a bad message for the military and those who support them, who are located in the Bryansk, Kursk, Voronezh, and Rostov regions at the very least. And of course, in the occupied territories. Wherever there are enemy military facilities, I think the demilitarization of Crimea from Russian presence will also continue. Donetsk is occupied and Luhansk as well. There will be even more strikes on them.
President Zelensky handed President Trump a list of the necessary military aid as part of a $90 billion agreement. Ukraine also wants to hold separate negotiations with the US regarding the supply of specific types of weaponry, particularly long-range systems.
All of this is provided for in our $90 billion agreement, but we are ready for separate agreements on specific types of weaponry, including long-range systems. I can't share any more details.
I can't say anything further about the details. According to the British publication The Sun, Ukrainian attacks on the oil refining sector alone have caused Russia losses of more than $100 billion. And that's not even counting the missile strikes. And once those come into play, the scale of the damage will multiply several times over.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
But that's still not all. The White House has approved 2 aid packages at once, each valued at $500 million. What heavy weaponry are the US and its partners preparing to send to Ukraine to finally corner Moscow and Putin? And will these supplies be enough to break the Russian army before a new wave of reinforcements arrives at the front? We'll talk about that in just a moment.
The US has approved the first deliveries of weapons to Ukraine at NATO's expense, although just 2 months ago this was only being discussed.
We won't pay anything for it, but we will send weapons. For us, this will be business. And we will send them Patriot systems, which they desperately need because Putin has really surprised a lot of people.
According to Reuters, Deputy Head of the Pentagon, Elbridge Colby, has approved 2 arms deliveries to Ukraine, each worth $500 million.
It is quite obvious that in the first 2 packages approved by Elbridge Colby at the Pentagon, the main focus will still be on air defense systems. Given the amount, it's clear that we're not talking about Patriot systems, but obviously about PAC-3 missiles, which are always in short supply and are used directly to shoot down Russian ballistic missiles. There may also be deliveries of AIM-9 missiles.
Nevertheless, PRL has become a new format for transferring weapons to Ukraine. The Allies provide the money, while the weapons come from America's stockpiles.
Recently, the Financial Times reported on significant problems with the crucial and critically important supply of essential ammunition and advanced missiles for those very same vital air defense systems intended for Ukraine, which was thoroughly explained by a comprehensive and detailed audit of the Pentagon's existing stockpiles. But now it's abundantly clear that a brand new program with new and improved procedures has already been meticulously put in place, and this comprehensive approach will now effectively help us to receive the necessary weaponry.
NATO allies plan to provide Ukraine with up to $10 billion worth of weapons, but so far we have only received 2 packages totaling $1 billion.
A substantial sum of $1 billion is not merely a fantastic amount. Rather, it is precisely what is genuinely required to effectively renew the absolutely critical and essential supplies that we urgently need at this very moment, all of which will be accomplished according to a truly innovative and entirely new procedure, meticulously implemented under the auspices of a comprehensive and newly established program.
But what about the timeline? The American side has not yet made any official statements about the deliveries, which means we also don't know the timeline.
We do not have official confirmation from the Pentagon, as we did, for example, with the IRAM missiles, where it was clearly stated who would pay, how they would be procured, and what the next steps would be. So far, there has been no such announcement.
And although Trump shifted the funding for armaments to Europe, the new aid mechanisms demonstrate positive relations between Kyiv and Washington.
Of course, the delivery timelines for what the defense forces need are insufficient, but nevertheless, this is a working mechanism that shows we currently have a completely healthy development of our relationship with Washington. Yes, not without problems, yes. There are different views on certain aspects of the negotiation track, but nevertheless, When it comes to critical supplies for air defense systems, Washington is providing the necessary minimum that is expected from it.
And finally, how might Moscow respond to this? Washington's approval is both a signal to its allies and a challenge to the Kremlin.
In this case, we understand that the main focus is on the aggression from the Kremlin is directed at European partners, while attempts are being made to whitewash Trump. The only one who can participate in such an attack specifically on the 47 states recognized by the US is Dmitry Medvedev, who might write a caustic post about it. So there will be some reaction, but it will be very toned down so as not to spoil the relationship between Putin and Trump.
Meanwhile, the Financial Times also reports that the US will send 33,000 AI-powered drones to Ukraine by the end of the year.
And at the same time, the US government has effectively shut down today. That is, a so-called shutdown has occurred because deep partisan disagreements prevented Congress and the White House from reaching a funding agreement. Is this really a total failure? The government shutdown began just a few hours later,
after
the Senate rejected a short-term spending measure that would have allowed the government to continue operating until November 21st. US President Donald Trump warned Democratic members of Congress that the shutdown could pave the way for irreversible steps, including further job and program cuts. Has Trump finally set a course for the total destruction of Putin, and will he be able to avoid drowning in problems in his own country? Share your opinion in the comments. Hit the like button below the video and stay up to date with the main news. There are already almost 470,000 of us subscribed, and the number keeps growing. See you